Hariett Tubman. Have you ever met anyone who would be willing to risk his or her life for the freedom of others?
Hariett Tubman is one of those people. She stands out in American history as an example of courage, bravery, and determination.
Hariett was born a slave in 1819 or 1820 in Dorchester, Maryland. She was of pure African ancestry. She was named Hariett Ross after her two parents.
Harriett's childhood was difficult. She was whipped, even as a young child, by our cruel and harsh slave owners.
At 12 years old, she was injured seriously when she was hit very hard in the head. An overseer beat her for not helping to tie up a slave who had tried to escape.
It was said that she suffered from narcolepsy as a result of this injury.
Hariett married a man by the name of John Tubman. John was a free African American.
Hariett worried that she would be sold further south by her owners. So after 5 years, she decided to try to escape.
John opposed her plans to flee north, so Hariett decided to go alone. A white neighbor gave Hariett a piece of paper that had two names on it and told her how to find the first house on the path to freedom.
When Hariett got to the first house, the owners quickly put her inside a wagon and covered her with a sack. They took her to the next house.
She continued her escape in this manner, traveling from house to house, until she arrived in Pennsylvania.
Once she had her freedom, Hariett wanted to help others.
In Philadelphia, Hariett met a man named William Still.
Still was the Philly station master of the Underground Railroad. This wasn't a regular railroad that ran underground. This railroad was very different.
For many of the slaves who lived in the slave states before and during the Civil War, the Underground Railroad was the only way to freedom.
No one knows exactly when it started, but history documents slaves escaping as early as the 1700s.
The Underground Railroad was a network of paths through river crossings, woods, fields, wagons, boats, ships, and trains.
The name probably came from the popularity of the new railroads in America.
The Underground Railroad was conducted by brave men and women who were willing to risk their lives to help escort the slaves to freedom.
Many of these people were called abolitionists. They wanted to abolish slavery.
Runaway slaves usually traveled alone or in small groups. They were always at risk of being caught.
William Still asked Hariett to become part of the Underground Railroad. Hariett agreed and became a conductor.
Hariett became known as Moses because she led her people to freedom just as Moses did. She made more than 19 trips to the south and helped liberate more than 300 slaves.
At one point, a reward of $40,000 was posted for the capture of Hariett Tubman.
In 1851, Hariett began trying to relocate her family members to Canada. Hariett was making a big difference in the lives of others.
Hariett was described as fearless and dedicated to the cause of freedom for slaves. She risked her own life on numerous occasions.
Hariett was an activist and helped John Brown organize the raid at Harper's Ferry. She couldn't go herself because of illness.
It was said that Hariett thought John Brown, rather than Abraham Lincoln, was a great liberator of her people.
When the Civil War started, Hariett worked as a soldier, a spy, and a nurse. She served for a time at Fortress Monroe.
She was particularly helpful to the Army because of her knowledge of secret paths and roads as a result of her work with the Underground Railroad. When the war was over, she was denied any payment for her wartime service. Can you believe that?
After the Civil War, Hariett returned to Auburn, New York. Her husband died 2 years later.
She married Nelson Davis, who was 10 years younger. Hariett helped the city of Auburn remain active in many causes. One of those causes was the support of women's rights.
She spent her last days in poverty and did not receive a pension of $20 a month until 30 years after the Civil War.
In 1908, she spent this money to build a wooden house that served as her home, as well as a home for the elderly and the poor.
Hariett continued to help and serve others.
It was here that Hariett herself was cared for before she died in 1913. Hariett was buried with military honors in Fort Hill Cemetery in Auburn.
Hariett received many honors and tributes in her life, including a medal from Queen Victoria.
Her wooden house was later named the Hariett Tubman Home. Hariett left a legacy of love and protection of the human spirit. She advanced the cause of freedom as well as human rights.
Hariett will live on in the memories of others for many years to come.